Yeah. Well, hello. Are we live? We're having some trouble getting on to Facebook today with the live stream, but we are women who don't give up. My name is Victoria Rose, the Queen of LiveStream, and I'm here today with part 2 of Would You Live in Croatia? I've already done part 1. Yay, thank you. Oh, that thumbs up lets me know that at least we are going live. Tina Donovan is my special guest today, and we're going to dive deeper into her experiences around what it's been like for her to relocate to Croatia, an Australian woman who left Perth, Australia, and is now living in Vodnjan, the city of Vodnjan, on the Istrian Peninsula in Croatia. Hey Chris, thank you for letting us know that you can hear us and see us. Fabulous. Before we go any further, I have to quickly heart you, because when you've already been stopped because of a poor internet connection, you're inclined to rush into things. So Tina, thank you for coming back.
You're welcome, Victoria.
We had so much response from part 1. Little did we know then that it even was part 1, but so many people, oh, thank you for the heart. So many people want to know more about how did Tina do this. So I decided to ask Tina, what are the 3 questions that I should ask you? Because Tina's had the experience and she knows what would be most useful. Oh, thank you, Chris. So Tina, your message seems to be that anyone can do this. I mean, is that really the case? Anyone?
Well, of course, the answer to that is no, not anyone can do it. I mean, if you have, you have serious health issues or a disability or responsibility for people like that, you're a carer for people like that, then probably you can't do it. But you probably do need to look at whether those things are real or whether they're an excuse to not do what you might want to do. Many cases, of course, they are real, and doing something like this is not an option. However, having said that and putting that to one side, the answer is yes, but with a caveat. You've got to really want to do it. So that's, a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to do this or I'd love to do that, but do they really, really want to do it? It's when you really, really want to do something, when you live and breathe it, when it absorbs much of your thinking time, when it becomes the essence of you, then yes, you can do it. Anybody can do it.
Woo! I love that answer. Thank you so much. And if you saw part 1, you would know that Tina said when she landed in the area, so I think it was Italy first, that you felt a close tug of the heart, a tug of the heart, and you felt that you were home.
Yeah. That's more than 20 years ago.
And it's still there, so strong.
Yeah, it hasn't dissipated at all. So I always knew that one day I would need to do something about this. And along the way I made lots of excuses for not doing it right now. You know, it didn't suit my partner, it didn't suit where I was at with my career, my family responsibilities, all of those sort of things. But in the end, it was just impossible to deny that I needed to do it. And as I said once before, I think I got a bit of a kick up the butt with Brexit, because that made it so much easier, being a EU citizen made it so much easier to do this. So yeah, anybody can do it, as long as you really, really want to do it and you do the preparation to get yourself there.
Yeah, because you find a way.
That's it, you find a way.
Yeah. I read something once and it said that if you can see your path laid out before you, or someone else lays that's good because it's your path. But if someone else says, oh, do this, do that, lays out the steps for you, then the chances of you actually committing to it and doing it are not very high, because it's not your path. And even better than that is when you take that first step.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
when you take that first step, you then see the next step, don't you?
Yeah. They emerge, that's for sure. Yeah.
So question 2, which is actually Tina's question. Question 2, Tina shared in the first broadcast that she had an active social life. She had a good network of friends. She had a family there in Perth, Australia, and worldwide a network of friends. But living in Perth, she'd built up a significant social scene and network. Now we're here. How are you doing that here? Because one of the most important human needs is to belong. So how are you doing that here, Tina?
Okay, the first and the most obvious thing to say is that you need to be open to it. And that's not as easy as it sounds often, because some people are naturally introverted. I'm not naturally introverted, but on some levels I am shy. I don't put myself out there. I prefer to sort of sit back, watch, and, you know, gradually bring myself into any group or any situation. But when you're doing something like this, unless you're prepared to be alone a lot, you have to be completely open to it. The second thing I came to understand is that it's not easy to make friends with the locals. That happens much more gradually than making friends with people from your own country or from your own background, sorry, because there aren't many Australians here. There are some, but not many. And my feeling was I wanted to know the locals. I wanted them to be my friends, because that would give me a more authentic experience of living in Istria. But, you know, they have their own friends, they have their own family, they have their own jobs. They actually didn't need me. They're all interested in me, they're intrigued by me, but they don't necessarily extend friendship, or at least not immediately. It takes time. You have to win their trust, their confidence. You have to find something in common with them. So that led me to various ways in which to meet other expats. And I didn't really go down that path for the first 3 months. I just spent a lot of time alone and got remarkably comfortable with that. But after 3 months, I realised unless I know people and get out and about a bit more, I'm probably not going to get the most out of this experience. And of course, Google is your best friend when it comes to meeting fellow expats. So if you just Google expats in Croatia, expats in Istria, all these various websites come up, but in particular Facebook pages. There's some really, really useful Facebook pages, and I know that they exist in most locations. There's expats everywhere. You know,
they're a virus.
I know, they are. And probably for me the most useful one was a really localised one, expats in Istria, because that was people living in this little part of Croatia, and I've met a lot of people through that, and none of them are more than, say, 50 kilometres away, no more than that. And Istrians are like, unlike Italians, they will drive considerable distances, you know, just to go for a walk or have a coffee. They've got a very open mentality to that. So I've met a lot of people. I go to lunches, I go to coffees. In the winter time, when there was not much doing because Croatia pretty much shuts down in the winter, we would meet on a Sunday or any day really, and just go for a really long walk and punctuate it wherever you happen to find a coffee shop open, and we could spend 3 or 4 hours that way, walking, drinking coffee, and gradually you form friendships. And the interesting thing is that, you know, if you met a random group of people in your own country, you might find 1 or 2 people that you connect with. But when you do this, on some level you connect with all of them, because they've all done the same thing. They all have a similar experience. They've all stepped outside of their home country. They've gone to this place which is new. I mean, most of them do have some connection to Croatia through, you know, family or something like that. or some of them have come here because of a job, but they've all still made significant changes. So you've got that in common as a starting point. You're all dealing with bureaucracy in exactly the same way, so that's a real bonding experience to talk about. How did you go when you went to the police station to talk about your residency and the stories that you share? So yeah, I guess all I'm saying is you have to actively do it. In my life previously, I would meet a lot of when I think about my circle of friends, many of them came from places I've worked, the work environment. If you're not working, then that possibility is not open to you. So you have to actively seek friends, and it seems that they're there, and most of them, no, all of them, are so happy to welcome a new member into the group. And now I've been here almost a year, I find myself, looking out for new arrivals, making sure I meet them really quickly for a coffee, seeing if they need any help. And it's just this ongoing chain and circle of welcoming and helping. It's a pretty special sort of a thing. So I certainly don't feel lonely, and I don't lack that friend network. And I'm still working on making friends with Istrians, native Istrians.
Wow. And hello, Cindy. Thank you for joining us today on this part 2 of Would You Live in Croatia? I know what Cindy's answer would be. And here's my third question. Thank you, Tina. That was a great answer, really useful. So the third question is, Tina, a solo Australian woman, moved from Perth, Australia to here, Vodnjan, the city of Vodnjan, on the Istrian Peninsula in Croatia. And she's made a success of that, a success. So please share, this is a big question, please share, because it's yours anyway, the three factors that have made, key factors that have made that relocation a success.
Okay, the 3 things I came up with were know what you want, do your homework, and know yourself. So knowing what you want is about where do you want to live, or do you want to live, or do you want to travel as Victoria is, because they're completely different things. So you need to be very, very clear about whether you want a travel experience or whether you want a lifestyle, and in my case, a sort of cultural experience. So you need to think that through, and most people thinking about this will know. For me, it was always wanting to live in Europe, not about being located somewhere where I could travel easily, which you can from here without any doubt, but living somewhere where I could experience as close to possible as the lifestyle that the locals live. I will never replicate it. For a starter, I will always have more cash behind me than they do, I guess. I'm unlikely ever to work because of the language barriers and those sort of things, and I'll never have family here, and family is critical to Croatian people, or people throughout the Balkans, people throughout Southern Europe. Family is just such an important thing. So I'm never going to have that. I'm never going to have exactly their lifestyle. But I was crystal clear that I wanted to go somewhere and stay there, put down roots. Sure, I'll do little forays to other places, and I have done plenty of those, but it was knowing that for me it was coming here to live and to stay. So that's number 1. Once you've identified that, the next thing is do your homework, and you need to do lots and lots and lots of it. I mean, most people don't even realise that their nationality, if you're Australian, for example, doesn't actually let you live in very many places long term. You can go, you can stay maybe a year, in some places quite a bit less, and then you have to leave. Is that what you want to do? Is that how you envisaged your experience? And if it is, can you make it work for you? Some countries it's easier than others. You just have to pop over a border, which might only be a few kilometres away, renew, and then you're good for another 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. So understand any restrictions or limitations put on you by your nationality and the passports you hold. And I use the plural there, passports. That's a really good thing to check out, to have a look to see whether you're eligible for a passport from any other country. because that could open doors that are not open to you as an Australian or American or whatever you might be. And in my case, I had British parents, and so I was eligible for a British passport, and I applied for that probably about 10, 12 years ago, because I knew at some stage I would do this. So I thought, let's have that passport ready, and it's been renewed twice since then, waiting for this big moment, but finally it's there. Then once you've narrowed down where you want to go, so let's focus on going somewhere to live rather than travel. Once you've narrowed down where you want to go, you usually start at country level, and for me it was Italy. It was always Italy. But even in a small country like Italy, small comparative to Australia, there are massive differences. That the north is so different to the centre, which is totally different to the south. So you need to think about what kind of lifestyle you want, what kind of people you want to be living with. For me, the south of Italy is just heartbreakingly beautiful. I just love it. But the north offers a lot more cultural experiences, and by that I mean, opera and symphony and that sort of thing, and they're things that are important to me. So I had started to think central or north. Central Italy is so sophisticated, think Perugia and Toscana and places like that. A quieter lifestyle, but very, very sophisticated, and that felt right to me. So I was thinking centre, maybe a little bit north, because I love that area through Modena and Bologna and that sort of thing. But then, of course, I ended up in Croatia, so that's another whole story. And then you need to think about, what will it cost to live me here? What will it cost me to live here? And living somewhere is a whole different thing to travelling somewhere. You don't have to worry about the cost of owning a car, for example, or the cost of utilities and things like that. So you need to do homework around those sort of things. And a lot of that can be done online now, which makes it a lot easier. In fact, there are some web comparison websites where you can put in information, or you can see information about what it costs to buy a litre of milk or to pay for electricity for a month in a location, and you can compare it to lots of other locations. So I had a bit of a look at those. They're only as good as the people who are putting information in, so it's other residents, other travellers who are putting the information in. So I decided that I needed to do a bit more research and find out a bit more directly for myself. If you can possibly visit the location you want to go to more than once, that's a fabulous thing. My last visit to Italy before I moved here was 6 months before I came, and while of course I was still a tourist and I took my son and my grandson, so they were doing tourist experiences, for me it was about really exploring the supermarkets, exploring real estate agents' windows, and going in and talking to real estate agents, getting a really good handle on what it costs to rent, how easy or difficult it is to rent, what it would cost to buy a property. If I wanted to buy a property, what are the costs of buying a property? How do you transfer the money? How do you what is the process? Do you need a lawyer? Do you need a notary? All of those sort of things. There's so much research to do. And of course, it makes very, very good sense to make sure that you've looked into that pathway to temporary and then permanent residency before you leave. Having said that, it's not always that easy to do that. I tried the Croatian embassy in Australia, and they just gave me very inconclusive answers, and it wasn't until I actually got here and went and spoke to the people who make the decisions that I found out what I really needed to do. I was lucky, it was straightforward for me because of my British passport, but a lot of other people have come a cropper because they've come in on the wrong visa in the first place, and then they can't transfer to a different visa. So connect with some of those Facebook pages I was talking about once you've identified your area, because there will be a lot of people on there who are more than happy to share their experiences. Then when you've done your homework and you've got a sense of where you want to live, what it's going to cost you to live, then it's time to start putting things in place to make sure you can actually afford to do what you want to do. I went to my financial planner. She's been my planner for a long time. She's super conservative, and I knew her advice would be, go on working, Tina, you can make a lot more money, and you're not nearly ready for a retirement yet, don't do it. So before I went to her, I went to another financial planner to get some advice, lay out my entire financial situation, and they worked out, because I have no income stream at the moment, they worked out how I could convert, by selling all my property, convert the cash to an income stream. So that's what I did. And then I went to my financial planner just to check that the advice I'd been given by this other planner was accurate, and she backed it up 100%. She said, yeah, these numbers are absolutely right. And to my amazement, she said, you know what I think about this, but if you've got the passion for it, just go do it, girl. So
wow.
So that's what I did. And she just happens to have a Croatian grandparents. She has Croatian grandparents. So I think she felt, where my heart was taking me.
Yeah.
And then finally, you need to know yourself. You need to know that you're strong enough and resilient enough to do this. You need to know that you can solve problems. And if you're not a natural problem solver and you do get anxious and that sort of thing, you need to think about, how am I going to cope with this? That's no reason to not do it.
Yeah.
Still do it, but think in advance. Okay, I'm going to go through stressful times. What are my coping mechanisms? And they might be to take yourself off to a quiet place, but a really good strategy is to have one or two friends at home who've got your back. People you can pick up the phone to any hour of day or night and talk it through, and somehow that little bit of connection with home and with people whose opinion you really, really trust, and people who will encourage you no matter what, that 5 minutes, 10 minutes spent doing that can restore your faith in your own ability to get on with it and do it. So I think it is really, really important to have a pretty good handle on who you are, how you're going to deal with difficulties, and in my case it was, how am I going to step outside of this fairly reserved person who doesn't, I was about to say doesn't make friends easily. I do make friends easily, but that's in an environment that I know really, really well, like the workplace or that sort of thing. None of those things exist here, so I needed to coach myself basically to, okay, speak to that stranger, because that's not my natural way of doing it. I wait till people speak to me, and I don't think I'd ever gone, or rarely had I ever gone to a concert on my own. I had only occasionally gone to a restaurant on my own. Wow. I just forced myself to do those sort of things, and that took some coaching, and I actually started that thinking and that coaching before I left Australia. So I came here being crystal clear about wanting to be here, having done a lot of homework. There was still more I could have done with the value of hindsight, but I knew what I was in for. I had a pretty good idea about what I was in for, and I had a pretty good idea about how I would cope on the ground once I got there.
Wow, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What a powerhouse of energy, vibrancy, information.
Not much vibrancy today because I've got this cold thing happening, but hey.
You still did it though, girlfriend. You're amazing. And just through a Facebook page, if you watched part 1, that I actually met Tina when I was in Croatia last September, October. I was in Opatia, and Tina and was here, and we met, and she said, oh, come and visit me, Victoria, if you ever come back. So I did. And it's been great. You're a fabulous host too.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I've got such a lovely home to share. I love my home.
Yeah, it is a beautiful home in a beautiful space. And I've been in Vodnjan for almost a month now, not quite, but almost. And I can absolutely see why she's chosen this part of the world. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope that you got something from this live stream, something that will give you the courage, or it doesn't really take courage, but for some people it might, the courage to take that step, the strength, or just the knowledge. So, now I've got the starting point. And if Tina's done it, as Tina has said, anyone can do it, with the caveats that she gave in the beginning. Is that right, Tina?
That's it.
So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful being here. My name is Victoria Rose. I am known as the Queen of LiveStream. On Sunday, I fly to the UK for 3 months of volunteering and house sitting. And in the UK, they have super fast internet. So we won't have those little problems we've been having here in Croatia. But we still did it, didn't we, Tina?
We did.
We still did it. Bye.